right. Welcome back to the Prophetic Are you Ashley? Welcome back to the Prophetic Podcast. Today is a special day because we're here with Deya. Deya, can you say hi?
Deya Direct, that's me.
Deya Direct. She's an author. She is a life coach. She's a lot of things. I did some research on you. You do a lot of cool
I've heard that
things.
about myself. I'm a lot of things.
Yeah. What else have you heard? Have you heard good things about yourself?
I don't know. We'll discuss it after this is over.
So a little backstory, if you'll tell everyone where you're from.
Believe it or not, I'm from New Haven, Connecticut.
Really?
Yeah, black people live there.
I went to water something.
Waterbury?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
There's
sorry.
nothing there.
I'm so sorry.
It is
Yeah.
nothing. Wasn't no black people there.
Were you bored out of your
No,
mind?
I was visiting New York and Boston and all these surrounding areas, and so I was staying in Waterbury because it was just cheap at Airbnb and stuff like that.
And you just skipped New Haven, huh?
Yeah, I skipped it all.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I would go back to Connecticut.
Well, if you stayed in Waterbury, I understand why.
Is there more to Connecticut than Waterbury?
I promised you stayed in the wrong place.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't particularly care for it. But I do like the East Coast, so you're an East Coast person.
All day.
I keep finding myself in connection with people from the East Coast.
That's right.
I don't
Good
know,
people.
Are they? Mm-hmm. They must be.
More authentic.
Yeah.
Generally,
Yeah.
you know what you're getting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So where does your story begin? Because I read a lot about a lot of your accolades, but where does it all begin? Like, how did you start this process of becoming the woman you are?
Well, I've lived many lives, so I guess the real question is, where do you want to start? Grew up in New Haven, as you know. Left right after high school, went to Howard. While I was at Howard, I became Miss Black Connecticut and then Miss Black USA.
I saw that.
Got married immediately after graduation. Would not recommend that. And I was a theater major at Howard, so my classmates were literally like in the acting program with Taraji Henson, Marlon Wayans. If you follow music, Eric Roberson.
Of course.
But Eric is actually a great actor. A lot of people don't know that. He's a great thespian.
Do you have acting chops?
Yeah, I was a theater major at Howard.
Like how good are you?
Well, I don't know. I'm not on TV right now, but I have been before.
Yeah.
So I got married because even though I had all this stuff going on, I was kind of afraid to do life by myself as an acting major. Like I didn't know if I was gonna have to go back home and work in like the local drugstore. Like there's always that scary moment after you graduate. Like, okay, what am I gonna really do? I've got all these loans, right? So, I had an internship in the U.S. Senate, so I stayed there after college, and that kind of shifted my career. And let's see. So then I worked in politics for about 4 years on the Hill.
Okay.
After that, I worked for a nonprofit that dealt with HIV/AIDS, which was an issue that was my platform when I was Miss Black Connecticut and Miss Black USA. I really dealt with HIV/AIDS from a self-esteem perspective because how you feel about yourself has a direct impact on the kind of choices that you make.
That's correct.
Including in relationships.
Yes.
Which can, put you in life-changing situations.
That's true.
Also because I had a number of family members who had the virus, including my father who passed away, and like basically all the men in his generation who were cousins, except for one, has passed away as a result of HIV/AIDS. So It literally wiped out most of the men in my family on my father's side. So that was an issue I was very passionate about. See, I just don't know where to begin because I got a lot going on.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, so
I'm here to learn more about you. So this is great.
So that's just I'm really kind of just giving you the professional stuff.
Right.
So then I went on to become a national correspondent for a political website, and that actually led me into radio. And after doing radio for a while, I eventually got the courage to go ahead and move to LA And so I actually did start to use my acting chops there. So I did, a couple of things. One thing you might know about is, I don't know if you remember the show Something New, the
Yes,
movie Something New.
I do.
Yeah, so I was Blair Underwood's real estate agent in that.
Okay.
Yeah, so when it comes back on,
I'm going to have to go look
yeah,
this up.
I got a $1 check yesterday, so I still
Hey,
get residuals. I
congratulations.
know, I'm living the life.
Yeah, dollars a dollar, it'll work. So I
so
heard
yeah.
I heard you say that you started out doing nonprofits. Is that what led you to do your You have a nonprofit now, right? Or the Super Self Care Project. Can you talk a little bit about that? Can you share is that what led you to do your own nonprofit? I know you said you were working with HIV/AIDS back in the day. Is that what led you to do more nonprofit work? Did you enjoy that?
It's not what led me to it per se, but it certainly gave me insight.
Insight. Okay.
Yeah. So the way that, and my nonprofit is still very young because
Okay.
I started it during COVID. What happened was I was doing events, right? So I was doing these events called the Super Self Care Power Summit, where I would bring people in all day to have a self-care experience. I mean, it was fun, like vendors, music,
Do you still do these events?
food. I do,
I need to go.
but with a caveat.
Okay.
Because I don't do events now without sponsors.
I like the way you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it started off doing yoga. You get massages, facials, all kinds of things, and then I would do panels all day with some celebrities, well-known, high-profile people, business people. For people to really just kind of tell their story, like the story behind the story.
Right.
It was really like the live version of what I do on my podcast. And so, you have people like, Claudia Jordan talking about, the time in her life where she considered suicide, or was bankrupt, or, other people who, have lost children, like just a lot of stuff that you wouldn't, because these are people who you generally just see the glory.
Right.
You don't see the story behind it.
This is true.
And then on every panel, I would have a medical professional of some sort, so either a therapist or a medical doctor. And then we would do the men's panel. So that was always really good for the women too, and it was really a great opportunity for men to have a safe place to talk about, which I think guys are doing a better job at now.
I tried.
Yeah, but
we
that
tried
was
to, for sure.
It was still fairly young then, and so
Right.
some of the people that you see now who are out there, in a big way talking about these things were on my panels back then.
Wow. Okay.
So to answer your question,
Yeah.
the reason why the nonprofit started is because during COVID, I couldn't do events. So I wanted to create something to still keep it going. So I
Right.
created a nonprofit to help women who were in circumstances where they needed therapy but couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
So we basically sent people
That's
to
beautiful.
therapy all throughout COVID.
So you are really tied into community, which I love. Is this the reason that you wrote the book that you have sitting next to you? If you want to show the book,
Oh,
yeah, you just released this
Yes,
book
I
because you said
did.
self care is it's a good time to plug it in. So the book is called "You're Successful, but Are You Okay? Real Self Care Strategies to Preserve Your Sanity and Get You Through the Workday."
ta-da.
So since we're here,
Since we're here,
what made you provide us with something so cool? Because that's not something that you would normally see. I read a lot of stuff like that, but you kind of have to be seeking. So what made you provide the public with something that could help them like that? Because that is necessary.
Sure. So, like I said, I would have a lot of people on these panels, and also as a life coach, people that I would, coach and talk to who were successful. But that doesn't mean you're okay.
Right.
And so it's really about whatever muscle you work on the most is the one that's going to be strong. So a lot of people work on, how they look, their career, their education. But that doesn't mean that everything is all good. And so we often leak emotionally. And then we get in work situations that are often sometimes not healthy as well. And so we learn how to take care of business and we learn how to do a lot of stuff, but we don't necessarily know how to be.
So social emotional learning, basically.
Absolutely.
got you.
I'm actually certified as a social and emotional intelligence life coach.
Man, you could teach me a lot. You have a lot of tools in the bag. I love that. So continue. Go ahead.
So what happened was, especially after COVID, you have a lot of broken people who are working wounded. And for many people, they realized just how much they needed to be home and have that safe place, and that there was another way to do life. But it also forced us to deal with ourselves and maybe some things that we were avoiding because we're always going and being, and it's easy to kind of avoid your stuff or
Correct.
your ish, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then you have to actually sit with yourself, sometimes alone, sometimes with a partner. Some people didn't make it out of COVID because there were just a lot of undealt with issues. And then if you add on top of that the stress of the workplace, it can be really tough. And so my goal was to give people not just like woo-woo self-care strategies, but science-based self-care strategies that you can use every single day, before work, during work, after work. So one example might be like the Power 3. So normally, when we have a morning routine, it might start with looking on your phone, getting up and getting ready for work, or looking at the news. And so
You're right. I changed mine because of that, actually.
So you're immediately engaging other energy into your life before you've even had a good chance to wake up to yourself. That's too much power. Because for some people, you'll look at what's on the news, which is usually never good news, or you'll look at what's on social media, and then, all that brings out, depending on what you see, because people are only showing their best selves. And so how do you feel when you wake up? What is your intention for your day? And so I give the Power 3, which is motivation, meditation, and movement.
It's the 3 M's. I read about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I saw you wrote this somewhere, and I heard you talk about it. It's the 3 M's.
And then I sometimes add a fourth one too, which is make up your bed.
Yes, I'm getting out of character, but yes, I saw this military guy talk about this.
Me too.
You know what I'm talking
Same
about?
guy,
Okay,
yeah,
hey, let me
yeah.
adapt that up. Okay,
Yeah.
there it is. He said if you make up your bed every day, when you come home, if everything goes to shit today, at least my bed was made. And it's comfortable, and I can get in a comfortable bed. We could try it again tomorrow. So I literally make my bed no matter how much it's annoying, it's tedious, but it only takes like 2 seconds, but I do it every day.
The other thing about that too is before you even leave the house, you've already accomplished something.
True. Very true.
You've already
Set the tone.
And you put your space in order.
Correct.
So you're not leaving from chaos, right? Which is a chaotic, crazy looking bed.
Yeah.
You actually took the time to set your space to complete something.
Yes.
Because sometimes we get into the spirit of multitasking and never get anything completed.
I know you don't believe in multitasking either. I've been studying.
I
I
know.
know you don't believe in that. Can I ask you a question?
We'll talk about it.
Let me ask you a question. So I was very intentional in switching my day. Recently, I had a birthday, right? Another trip around the sun.
Happy belated.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But I wanted to be very intentional this year. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I just had the need to be intentional. I do a lot of reflection coming up on my birthday, right? So instead of me getting up with my phone, because I usually get up and work on the show first thing in the morning, which is terrible because you're already in like go mode. So what I've been doing.
You work on the show and not on you.
At like 5:45 in the morning, I'm just doing stuff for the show. Like I just feel like I need to get started.
So you're pouring from an empty cup.
Look at you. Okay. Yes, ma'am, I am.
You haven't filled yourself up yet.
I have not. So what I started doing was reading my daily Stoic every morning, reading my Black Pearls every morning, journaling every morning, and I've been adding the 369 method to my day, which I know a lot of people don't believe in manifestation, but hence the name of the show, right? So I've added that to my day, and someone I work with during my day job said, "Hey man, you've been super positive lately. What's up?" And I was like, "I just switched my morning up."
I love it.
Like you've just been super motivating. Like you've been like not trying to motivate people, but your energy and the things that come out of your mouth have been a lot. Not that you weren't positive, but it's just in a different direction now.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I just started my day different.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels good. And so I've been journaling throughout the day. I'll start my day and say, hey, today's gonna be a good day, blah blah blah, and then I'll go back in the back half of the day and write something else. And every single day I've been journaling and writing
I'm so
and reading.
proud of you.
Yeah, reading.
So how do you feel? Do you feel different?
Man, I feel amazing. Like I've been reading Ego is the Enemy. I needed to finish it, and I was needing to finish it so I can get on your book. But so I just been adding those things to my daily routine. It's been amazing.
That's awesome.
It's been my headspace. Thank you. My headspace has been a lot different. So I was super excited to talk to you today. So am I on the right track with
not
doing?
only are you on the right track, but when I looked at what are some of the key habits that some of the most successful people in business have, it's about their morning routine. It really is how you begin, because if your morning doesn't start off right, it affects like the rest of your day. The other important thing that I think is super important in the morning is what you wear.
Yeah, you're right.
Because what I like to say is what I put on is the first thing that I can do to not only affect how I feel about me, but also how I'm seen and experienced by others.
Like how you show up in the world.
How you show up in the world, literally. And so that's why your colors also matter, because colors have energy, right?
I should stop wearing so much black.
Well, and here's the thing. I love earth tones.
I do too,
and I remember just kind of observing, though, how I felt my energy was, and I feel like I'm a vibrant person and fun, but I didn't necessarily feel like I was always received in that way, because you know how we think about ourselves and how we're received, not always the same, right?
Okay.
So I just started observing one particular young lady at a former job, and she would always wear vibrant colors, and she was always bubbly on the surface, and I was like, I'm going to take a hint from that. I was like, what is my favorite color? What do colors mean? What do I think really represents me? And orange is a color that I think represents my personality in terms of being vibrant and having energy. And so I started buying more colorful clothes. And immediately, people started complimenting me more. People were coming in my office more, and it was just, they saw me differently.
It's interesting you say that.
Because I was intentional.
When I wear things like salmon or purples, greens, oranges, I have a lot of red in my skin tone, I get a lot more compliments. When I wear black, it's just like, oh, hey.
So that's the, but you're on point, because the question is, what are your power colors? What colors look good on you? Not necessarily just, from a branding perspective, like, you should wear red because it's a power color. No, what colors actually bring you out?
I've never thought of that.
Well, you know what your undertones are.
I do.
So all you have to do is look at what colors work well with your undertones.
The salmons, the oranges,
Exactly.
Okay.
Or what colors people respond to.
The warmer colors, basically, yeah.
Totally.
Cooler colors don't really do it for me. I like them.
Brown people look great in those gym colors.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're on point.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So, we're talking about successes and growth and all of that, but let me ask you, success and everything is great, but it comes from somewhere, right? Inspiration comes from somewhere. And sometimes it comes from shortcomings or trials and tribulations, as I like to call it. So can you speak to a time that you're comfortable speaking about of triumph, where you had to grow from something that wasn't so great? Just to inspire, because everything you've done is inspiring, but I want to know kind of where it comes from.
Oh, man. Side. Well, I got a lot of those stories, too. But I think the key first is, how do you define success? Okay. Which is one of the things that I really talk about in the book, because depending on the season that you are in life, your definition of success might change. And so we do have to give ourselves permission to reevaluate what success looks like, because what success looked like for me when I was in my 20s are not what success looks like for me now.
This is true.
So, for instance, I started off talking about, when I graduated from Howard and I got married, and I was like, I wouldn't recommend that too early on, right? Especially when you're trying to figure out, who am I in life?
Yes.
And so I realized in retrospect that one of the reasons why I chose to get married is because I was operating from a spirit of fear. Okay. I was afraid to do life by myself, and he was somebody that I loved, and I thought this would be a safe choice. And sometimes those safe choices that we make, y'all, can be the most unsafe. So always look at your why. Like, we always have to ask ourselves, why am I really doing this? Mm-hmm. And so when I went down the aisle with tears in my eyes.
Not tears of joy, though.
No.
People don't ever talk about that part, though.
No. It was fear and trepidation, but more so in my spirit, right? I knew this wasn't right. And we always get the red flags. We always get those warning signs. But, the excitement of love or lust, it makes us think, we can overcome all those shortcomings. And we hear people say all the time, whatever the issues are while you're dating, they're going to get worse when you get married.
Yeah.
So I went against my gut, which, is always the wrong way to go. And a year later, when everything kind of came to a head, I was in bed with my husband at the time, but I felt so lonely. If you're going to be lonely and you're single, at least you understand. Because being single doesn't mean you're going to be lonely.
Just by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're in a relationship and you feel lonely, that's the worst kind of loneliness.
It's also time to call it.
Because somebody is there, but they're not. They don't really see you. And we all want to be seen, heard, and experienced. Yes. And this particular day, I was definitely triggered. And I'd allowed myself to think wrong for too long. And in a desperate attempt to get his attention, to show him that I was in pain, I took pills.
Wow.
And I really didn't want to die. And I don't think everyone who attempts suicide does.
It's a cry for help.
It's a cry for help. Mm-hmm. And it's also a desperation to make the pain stop.
Wow.
And so even though I took these pills, I thought about my mother. I'm an only child. I thought about my soul. And I basically took enough to make me sick. And I was able to, make some calls, and the ambulance came and got my stomach pumped and got home, and my plan worked. I got his attention.
Wow.
So he was super scared.
Of course.
Very attentive afterwards.
As he should be.
And his mom told him, well, she tried to kill herself. She might try to kill you next.
Well, he didn't. You're here, so we're glad that didn't happen.
And so he left me the next day.
Thank God.
Yeah, now. Yeah. But think about that for a second. I went through all of that, almost took my life to get his attention, and it backfired. He left me the next day. And so I had to really deal with me on a whole nother level. Now I'm not just dealing with the pain of I made a bad choice in a relationship. Now I'm also dealing with the shame that I did this thing, because at the time, mind you, a year before, I was Miss Black USA going across the globe motivating women.
Right. So how could this happen to me? Right.
I was a youth leader in my church. I wore all these titles.
You were doing all the things.
All the things.
Right.
And then, you know what I did the next day? I do what a lot of Black women do. I went back to work. I just kept going.
Dust yourself off. Keep
moving. Just kept going. I did not go to therapy. I didn't want to deal with it. I just wanted to pretend it didn't happen. That wasn't me. That, just put it in the back of my mind. And if somebody asked me about it, I was very defensive. How are you doing? I'm fine. How are you? Isn't that what we do?
Because you're bleeding on people that didn't cut you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm also, I'm not dealing with my why in the first place.
Projecting.
I'm not dealing with what brought me to that desperate place. I wasn't dealing with the fact that I was clearly depressed. Nor would I even give myself permission to think that I was depressed, because I hadn't even considered suicide before that day. So I was judging me. So of course I thought other people were judging me as well. And so to answer your question, that really though is what got me on the road to healing, because I realized that it's nobody else's responsibility to make you happy.
No.
And everybody's trying to figure out their own soul salvation. Everybody's trying to figure out how to make it another day. Everybody's trying to figure out how to stay sane, how to be successful, whatever that means or looks like. And so he was on his own journey. I was on mine. Our journey together was not meant to be long term, but that really did teach me that I needed to make my pain pay me back, which means if it happened to me, I need to figure out how to make this happen for me. I want some dividends off of my pain, my time, my energy. And so I do believe in making your pain pay you back. And that's why I wrote my first book, which is called Touch Yourself. 30 Ways to Boldly Live, Love, and Let Go. Yeah.
Okay,
And so
I gotta get a copy of this
I know, right? But the whole point of it is that book was about being so in touch with yourself and learning yourself that it really is you who really teaches people about you and not the other way around, not looking for validation from people who don't even know you, and really getting connected to your inside out.
You are speaking to my soul this week.
Okay, let's go.
I've had, even though I'm very confident, you do have these moments where like you just feel like you need to be validated. But then I was reading my book, Ego's Enemy, and that chapter that day was saying, hey, if you're feeling like you need to be validated, this is also ego too, because you're expecting something. I was like, so I'm using ego again. Like, right. It's a constant working motion. So I like what you're saying. And this is intentionally why I changed my day, just because I know I have these tendencies to use my ego sometimes, or to need the validation and the intrusive thoughts. Another thing I had, I thought about this week is the words. I think I might have talked to you about this, Trevor. The words that we speak not only to people, but more so to ourselves have a lot of impact. So a lot of times when I'm talking to other people, my words can hurt you, right? But if in my head I'm calling myself stupid, if I make a mistake, oh, you're an idiot, or, we don't think that has, an impact, but that has an impact too, because it seeps in. If you're the first person telling you all these bad things to yourself, well, then what do you expect for other people to think? Because you're going to project that outwardly. So now I've been talking to myself even better. I'll wake up in the morning, instead of giving myself a hard talk, I encourage myself. If I make a mistake, I say, it's okay. It happens. It'll be all right. We'll get the next one. Instead of me beating myself up. So I'm understanding everything. You are really talking to my soul today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Head talk is a beast.
It's a monster.
And the things that go on between our two ears, if people really knew.
It's a war.
It's a war. It is a daily battle.
Yes, it is.
And it's one of those things where, people are always saying, I thought I would be further than this by now.
Yes.
And how is this my life, right?
Yes.
At this age. Because expectations is the danger zone.
Self-expectation is crazy, yes.
Any kind of relationship. Your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your family, your relationship with your friends, your relationship, your romantic relationships, and your relationship at work. Expectations can take us out, right? And it can ruin a lot of things because sometimes the expectations that you have are just based on what you're thinking in your head, which nobody else even knows about.
Created this reality.
Have you ever been in a relationship with somebody and they just expected you to do something and they had a whole conversation in their head about, well, I just thought you would have just known to do X, Y, or Z.
I've been that person.
And
I've been that guy. Yeah.
No, why would you think that? We didn't even discuss it. But in your mind, you have had a full beginning, middle, and end about this thing.
And you know how the outcome's going to be. And all that. Yeah, I do it a lot. I do it to myself a lot, not to other people. I reserve it for myself, but I definitely have talked myself in.
Well, you're better than most.
Yeah, I try. Well, I have a therapist, and I do my therapeutic things. So I try to not project that energy on other people.
Yeah.
Not get flustered with other people. Like if it's a me problem, it's something that's going on, I just try to leave it localized to me.
Good for you.
I mean, I try. I mean, it's not always the easiest thing. Sometimes it comes out, but mostly I try to work through it myself. Go through the process, talk to myself, talk to my therapist, do my steps of things I told you I do, and I try to keep that in house. So that's my method.
Growth.
So, yes, growth. So what are all the aspirations that you have and all the things you've done? Where do you go from here? You've done so much. You said Howard, you said politics, radio. You were with Tom Joyner in the Morning. You were a producer for them for a while. I mean, you've done
10 years.
Yeah, right. So you've done it all. So what? And you've overcome a lot too. So what's the future look like for you?
I promise you, I have not done it all.
When I was just like, okay, it's just like you've done a lot, and that's beautiful. Black man to black woman, I am so proud of you to see that. You're inspiring. You're bringing things to the forefront. So what's next for you? What would you like to do next?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very proud to see that.
So the book is out now. So the journal is next. The journal will come out. I just came out with an amazing candle that's really not public yet, but you'll see that in the iteration.
Okay.
I'll do a spiritual devotional to this book because I want to talk about mental health and well-being from a spiritual perspective, and eventually I'll do the audio book. The goal is to have the audio book out by the end of the year because everybody just don't read. Okay.
I love to read.
Really?
It is an intentional act. I have a library at home. Everything from 48 Laws of Power to Torahs to, everything. So I like to read books. I like the physicality of it. I hate reading on my phone. I feel like I just it's all looks the same.
And it's hard on your eyes, too.
Yeah, it's like I have to squint and scroll, zoom. I don't like that. I like to highlight, annotate. I like to read.
Good
so
stuff.
I will have to get a copy of that so I can read it and annotate.
Oh, you don't have a copy?
Don't get mad at me.
Absolutely.
It's in my Amazon cart. I'm so sorry. But I'm going to have it because I'm coming to your book signing. I got your invite.
Yay.
So I'll have it. I'll be there.
Cool.
I need you to sign it.
Of course.
Like multiple, I need a couple of signs so I can give them.
Oh, yeah. So what do I have coming up? So I have a book signing on the 24th of June. Yeah. And it's going to be at Black Lit, which is Black owned, obviously, in Farmers Branch.
Okay.
And
how did I not know about this?
Because they're pretty heavy on social media.
Okay.
And she's connected to the Oprah Book Club as well.
Oh,
yeah.
I need to be in there. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good space.
Okay, I will definitely be there. You know what? You have been inspiring today.
Yay.
What would you, because we're going to wrap up here pretty soon, what would you like to leave the audience with? You've left them with a lot, but what would you like to say directly to them? Something that can inspire them. Not that you haven't done it already, but something you want to tell them.
I would say to make your pain pay you back. Like everything that you're going through and that you've been through, it matters. And I believe in using all of it, right? Sometimes we're so bent on forgetting and pretending like it didn't happen, but it changed you. Life happens and it changes you, but you get to say how it changes you ultimately. And it's like when you go to the bank. When you put your money in the bank, you don't want it to just sit there. You want it to grow. Or when you invest, you want it to grow, right? You want to get more out of it. And so when life happens, because life is lifing, even if it's something that hurt or that was hard to bear, what can you learn from it? How can you grow from it? How can you make it work for you? The way that I make my pain pay me back is I share my story. I'm having these conversations. I tell my truth because I know if it happened to me, I'm not the only person it happened to. And if I can help one person live another day, have more joy, realize that they're not alone, and feel seen and heard, then that's my payback. But living in a place inside your head by yourself where you don't benefit from your story and nobody else does, that's a hard place to be. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to be alone.
Deya.
Yes.
It's a beautiful conversation.
Thank you for having me.
I am so happy that you came through. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for having a beautiful conversation. Thank you for leaving gems because you left a lot. And thank you for all the things you're doing in the community. You're doing a lot of things, and they're all very important things. And they're multifaceted. So thank you for everything that you do. Make sure you guys get this book. Can I grab this real quick?
Would you please?
Yes, You're Successful, but Are You Okay? Please grab that. Every camera, you got it? Okay. Please grab that. It's on Amazon. It's in my cart. Don't get mad. I'm going to read it by the next time I see you. I will have read. I'll read fast. Don't worry. I'll have it done.
Good. You come with some good questions.
I do it.
No, you will.
Oh, okay. I'll try to, but
Yeah,
I'll have more for you, for sure. And I have more questions I want to ask you too on the back end about some podcast stuff. But we'll get to that.
Okay.
As always, we thank you for listening to this podcast. Hopefully, you enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed doing it. We hope that you learn. We hope that you grow. And we hope that you evolve. And also, we hope you come back and kick it with us all over again. Thank you for tuning in. Can you just say what you normally say? Just yell at it from the back. We prophetic. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Bye.